Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar, the Astrology of Life YouTube channel, and the 3 Substack newsletters, Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and Ask the Astrologer. Today my video is going to be about the Democratic National Convention, which starts on August the 19th, about a week from today. And what I want to do here is to take you back to the chart that I did a video on about a week or so ago about the energy around Chicago on that particular day. And then I'm going to show you the charts of both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the aspects to those charts. And I'm also going to throw in a composite horoscope of the relationship between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I think there's some interesting insight in there. Now, if you have been watching the news, they're starting to talk about possible similarities between the riots at the Democratic Convention, I believe in 1968 in Chicago. And I've heard other people talk about the fact that it was a bad choice, okay, for possibly a lot of reasons. There's a lot of murders in Chicago. But the feeling that I get when I look at this particular chart you're looking at here, and when I take a look at Kamala's chart and also Walz's chart, is that there's a very good possibility of some unexpected interruptions, unexpected issues that could rise up, okay? And I'll try to explain my feelings about that as I move forward in these particular images I'm going to show you. When I showed you this particular image about a week or so ago, I pointed out the fact that Uranus, okay, is squaring on the 19th, the Sun, the Moon, and also Mercury. Okay, Saturn is opposing Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. You can see Jupiter here is squaring Venus, Mars is squaring Venus. Okay, if you were doing an electional chart for somebody on just about anything, you wouldn't want to use this particular chart. Okay, because you have the unexpected issues that Uranus brings, okay? Excitement energy, but disruptive energy. And then you have Saturn, okay? Things just not running smoothly, or there being delays and hindrances. Mercury, I believe, is going to be retrograde on that particular day, okay? So there is the possibility, okay, it's already been talked about out into the media, that we could see some pretty significant rioting going on or demonstrations going on about the war over in Palestine, about other possible issues here. And I think that we can expect to some degree that the honeymoon might soon be over at that point. There's also the possibility that in some way, shape, or form, we might have some MAGA-inspired issues that occur as well. Because at this particular point, with the bad press and Donald Trump's mojo being stole from him, he needs some kind of display of control over what's going on. He feels out of control right now. All right. And of course, that's not good for the MAGA movement. It's not good for the Republican Party. And no doubt it's something that at some point between now and November is going to come into play. The idea that from here on out that things are going to be just kind of slowly evolving with Kamala and Walz just kind of steamrolling Trump, that's not going to happen. There's going to be disruptions. There may be some circumstances that are in the realm of unbelievableness that may creep in. And it could be a very, very bitter, exhaustive period for both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We know that Trump's already almost to the point of burnout, but the joyfulness that has erupted as a result of this ticket and stuff will be tested at this time. Okay? All right, now let's move from this particular chart, which is essentially the energy on the 19th, okay, around Chicago. This will last about, I think, 3 or 4 days, this convention. And some of these planets, like Mercury and the Moon, obviously will move out of orb, but you could look at this as actually the 19th. If I knew the actual birth time, I'd put it here for the event when they open the doors. You could get a pretty good idea from that, a more accurate idea, I suspect, of what we could be experiencing. But this looks like a pretty bumpy ride for this particular convention. All right, now let's take a look here at the horoscope of Kamala Harris here on the inside. We have her birth time, the transits, okay, August the 19th, 2024, Chicago, Illinois. I relocated it because she's going to be in Chicago. This kind of surprised me, and it kind of makes me wonder exactly what's going on. And I can make a conjecture, I can speculate, but to totally predict what's happening with her at that particular time, for me, is just kind of, I don't know. But when you take a look down here, okay, Pluto squaring her sun, her moon, squaring her Mercury, that particular aspect is going to be closer than the other two because that Pluto has moved beyond the exactness of that particular opposition. She was born under a very tight full moon, okay? A very fortunate full moon, okay? But the question is, all right, is this going to add more to the stress and the sense of overwhelming responsibility that everything that we see happening, okay, the impact of it upon her? Pluto is sesquiquadrate, which is not an easy aspect, to Venus, okay, the same thing to Saturn, all right, and then also to natal Pluto. So by itself, when you're talking about Pluto, there's two things about Pluto. It either transforms or it destroys, okay? It either indicates very affirmative strength and purpose designed by the will of the universe or an individual's higher self, but these are not easy aspects, okay? If this was a particular person's chart, a relationship chart, for example, and I was doing this for a person, I would want to know, is there any control issues going on in their relationship? Are you feeling pressure? Is somebody trying to control you? Okay. Now, of course, this could reach out to something that MAGA does and that Donald Trump whips up. Okay. So this could come into play here. But this takes a lot of the joyfulness out of this process. This is supposed to be kind of like a party where everybody comes together and everybody says nice things and what they're going to do. And then everybody says, go do it. All right. Well, it may not be that simple. And it gets a little worse. Saturn, sesquiquadrate, Mercury, Saturn opposing Venus, Saturn opposing Uranus, Saturn opposing Pluto. Okay. So we have Pluto and we have Saturn, okay, in states of afflicting other planets. You can see here that Jupiter Jupiter squares Venus. Jupiter squares Uranus. Mars squares Venus. Okay, Mars squares Pluto. And this is in Kamala's chart. Now, the relationship between the sun and the moon here, and Mercury, okay, is pretty balanced. In other words, what I mean is that there will be a lot, I think, of pleasantries initially, essentially, but something could get out of hand. Something could come to the surface. Something could trigger off the need, for her in a way to go on the defensive because of things that she cannot control. All right, that's the big thing. Pluto is the heavyweight in here, and that represents things you cannot control, things that are fated and destined. Okay, and that can make things more complex than what we would consider. All right, now let's go over to the chart of Tim Walz, okay, the vice presidential potential candidate. And his chart is nowhere near as disruptive as the chart of Kamala Harris. He's got Pluto here squaring Jupiter, which I kind of imagine is an indication of his very fervent, passionate, energy at this time, the excitement and things like that. But the thing here that is a little bit, I guess, unnerving in a way, is that you can see that Pluto is going to be very close to conjuncting his natal moon. Okay, here's Pluto. Here's the natal moon. It's within 3 degrees. All right, again, we have this situation where Pluto, the unknown, transformation, death and rebirth, control, okay, or death and rebirth. Both of these energies are very much present in the chart of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And they are not necessarily easy energies to deal with because they basically indicate something of an unexpected nature. All right. This can create a very strong emotional reaction, much like with Kamala Harris, okay, with that T-square between Pluto and her sun and her moon. So, if what they suspect is going to occur, it could be a situation where what was hoped for in a Democratic convention of being a very joyous energy building situation, moving towards, being on the offensive and going after, the presidency and after Donald Trump, becomes one that is marred in some way by disruption, unforeseen circumstances that nobody could have imagined, the attempt for MAGA to interfere, and to disrupt the proceedings, unexpected situations within the actual, circumstances themselves. I hope that the Secret Service is on double watch at these particular times, all right, because anything's possible, okay, and Trump and MAGA is desperate enough now that if they're going to make a play, it's going to be between now and between November, all right, and anything is possible. Now, I also decided to do a composite horoscope between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about this chart is that we don't know Tim Walz's date of or time of birth. So I'm not totally, absolutely certain about the accuracy of this. Okay, I just basically picked a time. All right. If this is accurate, it could be extremely revealing of something that we are not aware of yet or that we're not seeing. Okay. And the composite chart is a composite of 2 charts and the midpoints that these 2 charts create, okay, to make one chart, one whole chart. It's a chart that's often used to show the relationship between 2 people as others see them, okay? If this is true, the relationship between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz may not be all that smooth. It may not be all that pleasant. I know that in the other chart that I did on them, Jupiter, Tim Walz's Jupiter is conjunct her moon, which is a very good placement for a relationship. And then, of course, their Saturns are conjunct on her midheaven in regards to the presidency. I didn't see anything there that indicated any kind of interaction with Saturn against either or. So I didn't get that sense of control issues. But it's a whole different ballgame here. You can see here that Pluto in this particular synastry, or not synastry, composite chart, opposes the moon. Uranus opposes the moon. Mars opposes the moon. Okay? If these were in fact real, in other words, what I mean here is if the fact of not having his exact birth time, okay, did not change what you're saying right here, this is not a real glowing testimony for what is happening in the relationship. This could indicate real conflict, real control issues, you know, things that haven't come out yet. I would like to think from the synastry chart that, you know, this is not possible, but I also know that composite charts often reveal a lot of things that you won't see in a synastry chart. So I'm showing that to you here so you get a sense of something, if it happens, unfortunately, that you're aware of why. You also have Pluto squaring Mars, Uranus squaring Mars. Okay, so again, it's a very volatile composite chart between two people. And let's hope that nothing of the nature of what I'm showing you here starts to manifest, okay, or gets triggered, or this situation with Tim Walz, Pluto conjuncting his moon, doesn't manifest somehow in the relationship between him and Kamala, or goes into the White House, because Pluto conjuncting the moon always involves an issue, control issue with a female. You know, if it's not your mother, it could be your sister, or it could be your wife, or it could be your girlfriend. So we'll have to see how well Tim Walz has his ego under control as we see this thing unfold in front of us. And as I've said before, and other people have echoed this, it's going to be a wild, wild ride coming into the election and beyond. All right. All right, let's go to another chart here. This is a tri-wheel. This is the horoscope of Kamala Harris here, Tim Walz here, and then the transits here for August the 19th, 2024. And this kind of gives you an idea here of what's involved with this Pluto aspect. You can see Pluto here getting very close to Walz's moon in the 8th house. Pluto is transiting Kamala Harris's 8th house. This intensifies all the experiences in your life, okay? It is conjuncting the moon of Tim Walz, all right? And again, that intensifies things more than what you would consider to be the norm. And of course, also, this is in an opposition to Kamala Harris's, I'm sorry, not opposition, but a T-square to Kamala Harris's moon and also her sun. So we have a picture here of how Pluto is going to be triggering both Tim Walz's horoscope and Kamala Harris's. Okay, I mean, right now we're all kind of in the afterglow of what has happened when Biden stepped aside. But the question is, and the question that I've often heard talked about, is that people wonder if Kamala has enough strength to be able to endure the bombarding that she's going to be going through, the attacks on every area of her life. Okay, I think that because of her Vedic chart, when I showed you that Rahu was conjunct the ascendant, and also Saturn, which rules Capricorn, is her 9th house, okay, that she does have the ethics, she does have probably the spirituality, she does have the strength, but it's going to be exhausting, okay? It will be exhausting riding into the election itself. All right, now, here, essentially, I'm using a different program. By the way, the other charts that I showed you were from the Janus 6.1 program by Astrology House in New Zealand. This is a shot from the Kepler program from Cosmic Patterns. And I brought this up here because I wanted to show you some of the issues relative, again, to what she's going to be dealing with moving forward. You can see that transiting Saturn is opposing her Venus. Okay, already as of yesterday, it was exact. All right, it will come back in February. When you move on down here, some other things start to creep in that I think are even more significant. Transiting Saturn is going to oppose her natal Pluto in September and then in January. Transiting Saturn is going to oppose her natal Uranus in October and in December. And then Saturn is sesquiquadrate on the 3rd of November and the 26th of November. She does have Uranus conjuncting Jupiter here on the 18th of December and also in March. Again, when you're talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, it's very difficult to determine how that they are going to manifest. When they're hard aspects, okay, oftentimes they do, but the circumstances are not very pleasant. The sextiles, the trines, and sometimes the conjunctions will show a thing. In this case, because it's a conjunction, we might see something here, okay, of a fortunate turn of events. And again, looking at these particular planetary aspects, I feel that in some way, shape, or form, this is interference with the election, prior to the election and after the election. It's going to be a grab by MAGA, okay, by individual states where maybe they don't have the greatest security in the world, and there are people there that are on the board of elections that hold up the final results. If this is a close race, which some suspect that it will be, it'll be because of dirty tricks by MAGA and by an extreme effort by the Democratic Party and the people that are excited about this ticket to do the work necessary to get the votes on the day of election. All right, so it's like a heavy round fight, like a 12-round heavy round boxing match, so to speak. And you have to wonder who's going to land the final punch, who's going to throw the knockout punch. We know who should, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's who will. Okay, and I think now I'm back to number 1. This is the actual chart of the convention. So we have a lot to be concerned about here. Okay, we have a lot to be concerned about here. And again, a feeling that I have had is that America, and they have responded to Kamala and to this ticket, okay, is willing to place their bet upon them. But as in all cases when it comes to criminal actions, the good guys are always the last to know. And we can only suspect that there will be dirty tricks played against the convention and against anything that the ticket, the Kamala Harris Tim Walz ticket, tries to do from here on out. It was very telling when J.D. Vance tried to meet with Kamala Harris. I think it was in Milwaukee this past week, in an attempt, I feel, to probably intimidate her. This, of course, is a tactic that, Trump uses and used. If you remember in 2016, I think it was, how he stood right behind Hillary Clinton while she was talking in a debate and got himself in the camera to distract really all the people that were watching. And the rest is history. All right. So don't be surprised if this particular convention is more disharmonious for a lot of reasons than what you thought, that it could create a certain amount of anxiety and worry. All right. That there may be flaws that show up in the relationship between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz that weren't known. A lot of these things creep out in the news. Somebody says something, that they saw something. They call up a news reporter and says, "Hey, I saw this," and they're not so buddy. Okay. But this is kind of where we're at. This is kind of where we're at. Things are getting more serious, and we'll just have to see how it works out. Okay. For those of you that are members and subscribers to the channel, as always, thank you so much for staying with us. Those of you that make donations sporadically or that have done so on a monthly basis, you are appreciated by both myself and CJ. And we do hope that you will, if you get a chance, visit CJ's newsletters over on Substack. One's called CJ's World, and the other one's called CJ's Whispers of Knowing. CJ is a great writer. Whether you like to investigate the nostalgia of your years growing up, as we were in the 50s and 60s, or you want to go into the whispers of knowing and contemplate some of the deeper, more profound things of life and spiritual awakening and awareness. All right? From the love of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, we thank you again for your support, and we're going to stay here and crank it out with you for the next 3 months and maybe even beyond that. And don't forget that the 4th Saturday, okay, of this month, let's see, I think it's the 27th, okay, we will be having a live stream. It'll be 1 hour from 10 to 11 a.m. in the morning, okay, on Saturday. And I am going to be giving more information as we move forward about teaching classes in 2025. I'll give you more information for those of you that responded. There were about 50 people that responded, and a good portion of those were interested. And I'll try to narrow down and find out, to what level your interest is, whether you will like the way that I choose to teach the classes, and what you feel comfortable with. I think that what we're thinking about in regards to the charge for the classes themselves, CJ and I talked it over, and we're going to be having 2 classes a month for those of you that want to learn about astrology, and to really not just learn about the basics, but to learn about the work of an astrologer, to learn about other techniques in astrology, other systems of astrology. It's going to be quite open-ended. Okay, in other words, I'm going to want to know what you want to know, or you want explained, or that you're uncertain about. And we feel like that if we charge like $25 a month for those 2 sessions, that's reasonable and fair. Okay, not looking to make millionaires out of ourselves, but to help those of you that want to really kind of get a deeper feel of astrology, and to give you some insights and some background and some understanding of what it's like to do astrological work. A lot of folks that are learning and haven't begun to give readings and stuff, you're always kind of anxious and you're self-conscious, and you wonder if you can do it, and you're afraid of making mistakes, and I can tell you that it doesn't go away. Okay, it doesn't go away. You're always going to have, at times, with a horoscope, with a chart, a certain amount of self-doubt. That's why I call what I do speculating and not predicting. Okay, because I don't believe that you can accurately predict from a horoscope what's going to happen. Not absolutely. You can get into the ballpark, but not absolutely. Okay, there may be a few that with their higher self-guidance are allowed to do that, but I would say that most of the high-level guidance doesn't want to do that. I've mentioned this many times before. I've worked with detractors channels, and I've worked with other individuals that were highly evolved consciously. And the one thing that impressed me about the information that I was given was that I was never, ever told what to do or what was going to happen. That was considered to be a infraction, okay, an interference, all right, of my fate and my destiny and stuff. So keep it in mind. And if you have questions, there is an email address. It's called astrologyclasses@protonmail.com. If you want to interact with me, get more information, about the classes themselves to see whether or not it's something that you're going to be interested in. Okay, I think that's it. And at the moment, I probably think that the next video I may do will be the sentencing of Trump in September. There's some interesting aspects going on at that time. And depending upon how things go this month, remember this month, around the same time that they're having the Democratic National Convention, that Trump is also dealing with that transiting Saturn squaring his Uranus and that progressive Venus squaring his natal Saturn, which is going to be more trouble for him. Okay, so we got a lot to look forward to. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.